I had spent years making space for everyone else. Shrinking, adjusting, letting things go. I didn't realize that one day I would come home and find my memories piled in the yard like garbage, and be expected to thank someone for the favor. That day, something inside me stood up. Welcome to my YouTube channel Whisper Stories, where silence speaks. My name is Lucy, and I am 62 years old, and the moment my life split cleanly into before and after was not marked by a scream or a slap or a slammed door, but by the quiet thud of my wedding album landing face down in the mud. I stood on my own front steps barefoot, a grocery bag slipping from my hand, watching the pages curl as brown water soaked into memories that had once been white and hopeful. My daughter-in-law crossed her arms and tilted her head like she'd just taken out the trash. "It's trash," she said lightly, as if she were talking about banana peels and empty cartons instead of my life. That was the moment I realized something dangerous had been growing inside my home, and that if I didn't stand up right then, I would disappear entirely. I had lived in that house for 37 years. I raised my son there. I buried my husband from there. I cried into those walls when the nights were too long and the bed too wide. Every inch of that place carried fingerprints of who I was, who I had been brave enough to become after loss. When my husband Robert died of a sudden heart attack 12 years ago, the house nearly swallowed me whole. Friends suggested I downsize, sell, move closer to family, but I stayed. Because leaving felt like erasing him. I painted the kitchen the same soft yellow he loved. I kept his coffee mug on the shelf. I learned how to be alone without being empty. And then my son Mark asked if he and his wife needed a temporary place while they saved for their own home. Temporary, that was the word. I said yes because I was his mother, and because I missed the sound of another heartbeat in the house. At first it was fine, almost nice. Mark helped with repairs, I cooked real dinners again, laughter came back into the rooms. But then came Angela. Angela didn't arrive like a storm. She arrived like a draft, subtle, chilling, slowly changing the temperature of everything. She reorganized my cabinets without asking. She replaced my curtains because they were dated. She called my furniture heavy and my photographs clutter. I told myself she meant well. That's what women like me do. We excuse until there's nothing left of us to excuse. The first thing she threw away was my sewing basket. I found it missing and asked casually. She smiled. "Oh, that old thing, it was falling apart." I tossed it. Inside that basket were buttons from my mother's dresses, a half-finished quilt Robert used to tease me about, scissors worn smooth by decades of use. I laughed it off, bought a new basket, tried not to ache. Then it was my books, then my china, then the armchair by the window. Each time she had a reason. Minimalism, modern style, efficiency. Each time Mark shrugged and said, "It's just stuff, Mom." But it wasn't just stuff. It was proof I existed. The day it happened, the day everything went into the yard, I had gone out for groceries, just 40 minutes. When I returned, my driveway was blocked by boxes. My lawn looked like a garage sale I hadn't agreed to host. Clothes, frames, albums, lamps, letters. My letters. I dropped the bags and ran. Angela stood there with gloves on, her phone in her hand, surveying the scene like a project well done. "What is this?" I asked, my voice already shaking. She didn't look at me. "I'm decluttering, you had way too much junk." I walked to the pile and picked up my wedding album just as a sprinkler hissed to life. "Stop," I shouted. She finally looked at me annoyed. "Lucy, relax, this stuff is old, nobody needs it." I stared at her, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break my ribs. "That's my life," I whispered. She rolled her eyes. "It's trash." Something snapped. Not loudly, not violently, but completely. I realized then that if I cried, if I begged, if I tried to explain, she would win, because she didn't see me as a person, only an obstacle. So I did the one thing she didn't expect. I smiled. Then I walked back into the house. Angela laughed behind me. "Where are you going?" I didn't answer. I went straight to my bedroom, the one room she hadn't dared touch yet. I opened the drawer where I kept my documents. The deed. The will. The letter my lawyer had helped me draft 2 years earlier, just in case. I walked back outside and stood in front of her. Pick everything up, I said calmly. She scoffed, excuse me. You heard me. Mark came out then, confused. What's going on? I handed him the deed. This house, I said evenly, is in my name. It has always been in my name. And as of today, you and your wife have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. Angela's mouth fell open. You can't be serious. I am. She laughed sharply. You'd throw your own son out. I looked at Mark, and it broke my heart to see the boy I raised hiding behind silence. I'm not throwing him out, I said. I'm reclaiming my home. The next 30 days were ice cold. Angela refused to speak to me. Mark tried to negotiate, apologize, minimize. But something had changed in me. I was done being minimized. I packed my things carefully. I restored what I could. I cried at night but stood tall during the day. Neighbors whispered, family called, some said I was cruel. But I slept better than I had in years. On the final day, Angela left without looking back. Mark hugged me at the door, tears in his eyes. I didn't see it, he said. I know, I replied, but you should have. After they left, the house felt quiet, but not lonely. It felt like mine again. Weeks later, I replanted the lawn. I rehung my pictures. I placed the wedding album, warped pages and all on the shelf where it belonged. I started volunteering. I took a pottery class. I learned that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply refuses to move. Angela never apologized. But she didn't need to. Because I finally learned the truth. Respect is not given because you are old or kind or family. It is given when you draw a line and mean it. Moral of the story. Never confuse kindness with weakness. Your memories, your space, and your dignity are not disposable. The moment you stop protecting your boundaries is the moment others decide they can erase you. I am Lucy, I am 62 years old. And I am still in charge of my life,